Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive into French.
It's great to be here.
Today we're going to tackle C clauses in French grammar.
Those conditional and hypothetical expressions that add so much depth to the language.
Right, those what-ifs and possibilities,
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you using the Pronunciator app, especially the library module,
This deep dive is for you. Think of it as your secret weapon for conquering those tricky C clause questions.
especially those on your way to earning that certificate,
We'll go beyond simple definitions and textbook explanations.
and really uncover the nuances and the expressive power of C clauses.
We'll have you wielding those C clauses like a pro.
Like learning a secret code to unlock a whole range of possibilities in French.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Can you break down the fundamental structure of C clauses?
Sure. Think of C clauses like a two-part invention.
Two parts.
Yeah, so you've got the C part,
Okay, that makes sense.
which sets the condition, the what if,
Right?
and then you have the result part, the outcome, the then what.
I like that. What if and then what?
And the magic happens in how those two parts work together.
And so it's about how they connect.
Exactly. And the key to mastering that connection is understanding which verb tenses to use in each part.
Ah, yes. Verb tenses. The music of the French language.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right rhythm.
So let's say we're talking about a simple condition, something that could happen in the present or future. What verb tenses should we use?
So if the if feels likely,
Okay.
you'll usually use the present tense in the C clause and the future tense in the result clause.
Present for the condition and future for the result.
Got it. Like, si j'ai le temps, je visiterai le musée.
Which means,
If I have time, I will visit the museum.
okay, makes sense. The present sets up the condition, and the future tells us what will happen if that condition is met. Pretty straightforward.
Exactly. And it's the most common type of C clause you'll encounter. Once you get the hang of the verb tenses, it becomes second nature.
But what about when things get a little more hypothetical? Like a little more what if?
That's where things get really interesting.
Ooh, I like interesting. Tell me more.
We move into the realm of the imperfect and the conditional tenses.
Okay.
The imperfect tense in the C clause helps us create that hypothetical scenario, that what-if world.
And the conditional tense.
The conditional tense in the result clause tells us what would happen in that imaginary situation.
Got it. So for example, how would we say, if I were a bird, I would fly to Paris for croissant?
In French, you'd say, si j'étais un oiseau, je volerais à Paris pour des croissants.
Beautiful. So the imperfect été sets up that impossible condition of me being a bird.
Exactly. And the conditional volerai expresses the dreamy result of flying to Paris for croissant.
I'm starting to see the magic of C clauses. It's like opening a door to a world of possibilities, even impossible ones.
And the more you practice, the more you'll discover those subtle nuances and expressive possibilities. It's like adding a whole new dimension to your French conversations.
Now, I know we're focusing on the verb tenses, but there's another little word that can really change things up in a C clause. Quand. When do we use quand instead of si? And what's the difference in meaning?
That's a great question. Si and quand both deal with conditions, but there's a subtle but important distinction. Si is all about exploring possibilities, those what-if scenarios we've been talking about. Quand, on the other hand, expresses certainty. It means when, so it's used for things we expect to happen, things we're pretty sure about.
So, si je gagne la loterie, j'achèterai une maison sur la plage means if I win the lottery, I'll buy a beach house, which is a possibility, a dream.
Right.
But quand je vais en France, je mangerai beaucoup de fromage means when I go to France, I will eat lots of cheese, which is pretty much a guaranteed delicious outcome.
You got it. One is a delightful hypothetical. The other is a certainty, at least for any cheese lover heading to France.
This is making me hungry just thinking about it. And we've talked about certainty with quand, but what about adding a touch of uncertainty to C clauses? What if we're not quite sure if that if will actually happen?
That's where peut-être que comes in handy. It adds a sprinkle of doubt to your C clause.
So instead of saying, si je réussis mon examen, je ferai la fête.
Which means,
If I pass my exam, I'll party. We could say,
peut-être que si je réussis mon examen, je ferai la fête.
which is like saying, well, maybe, just maybe, if this exam thing works out, there might be a party.
Exactly. You've captured that subtle shift in meaning perfectly. It's no longer a sure thing, but a hopeful possibility.
I love how just a few words can create such a nuanced difference in French.
Yeah.
It's like having a whole palette of expressions at your fingertips.
And that's what makes mastering C clauses so rewarding. It's not just about memorizing rules, it's about understanding the shades of meaning, the possibilities, the what-ifs that make French such a rich and expressive language.
Speaking of shades of meaning, let's shift gears a little bit.
And talk about the past.
The past, okay.
How do we use C clauses
Yeah.
to talk about hypothetical situations in the past?
Ooh, like those roads not taken scenarios.
Exactly. Like, what if I had made a different choice?
Or, what if I aced that French grammar quiz last week?
Precisely. For those hypothetical journeys to the past, we need two powerful verb tenses.
Hit me with them.
The pluperfect and the conditional perfect.
Ooh, those sound serious.
They are the time machines of C clauses.
Time machines.
They allow us to rewind and explore those alternative paths not taken.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Imagine thinking back to that French grammar quiz and saying, if I had studied harder, I would have gotten a better grade.
Okay, how would you actually say that in French?
Si j'avais étudié plus, j'aurais eu une meilleure note.
Whoa, let me break that down.
Sure.
We have si j'avais étudié plus.
Which means?
If I had studied more. So that sets up the past hypothetical situation.
Exactly. That if only I had studied more feeling.
And then j'aurais eu une meilleure note is the result.
Yes, meaning I would have gotten a better grade.
So the pluperfect avait étudié sets up that past hypothetical situation.
I'm studying harder.
And the conditional perfect aurait eu expresses the result that could have happened. A better grade.
You got it.
It's like creating a parallel universe where we made different choices.
And experienced different outcomes.
Kind of mind-bending.
But that's the beauty of C
I'm
clauses.
starting to get it.
They give you the power to play with time.
Okay.
To explore those hypothetical pasts and imagine
I like.
how things could have been different.
Now, what about when we have not one, but two C clauses in a sentence?
Oh, that's a good one. It's like juggling.
Juggling.
With practice, you can keep all those clauses in the air without dropping a single one.
Okay, so what's the key?
The key is making sure your verb tenses are logically aligned,
Okay.
creating a smooth flow from one hypothetical scenario to the next.
All right, walk me through a double C clause scenario.
Okay, imagine this. If I had won the lottery last year, I would buy a chateau in France. And if I spoke fluent French, I would charm all of the locals.
Uh-huh. I like it. Lots of hypotheticals there.
Right. So how do we translate that into French without creating a time paradox?
That's the question.
Si j'avais gagné à la loterie l'année dernière, j'achèterais un château en France. Et si je parlais couramment français, je charmerais tous les habitants.
Whoa, okay, that's a mouthful.
Let's break it down.
Okay.
First, si j'avais gagné à la loterie l'année dernière.
If I had won the lottery last year. So that's our pluperfect for that past hypothetical lottery win.
Yes, and then
J'achèterais un château en France.
that's the conditional achèterai.
For the present result of buying that chateau.
Okay, exactly. And then
Et si je parlais couramment français?
another conditional parler for the hypothetical fluent French.
Right.
And je charmerai tous les habitants for that charming result.
So it's like a domino effect of ifs and thens.
Exactly. It's all about keeping those verb tenses in harmony.
So our hypothetical timeline stays consistent.
Precisely.
I'm actually starting to enjoy this.
Good. French grammar can be fun.
This is reminding me of those choose-your-own-adventure books.
I love those.
Each C clause is like a fork in the road.
Leading to a different hypothetical outcome.
And it makes French grammar way more exciting than I ever thought possible.
That's of the spirit. And speaking of exciting possibilities,
Oh, yes?
let's venture beyond the world of C for a moment.
Venture beyond C.
Yes. Are there any other expressions we can use in French
Ooh, I'm all ears.
to create those conditional and hypothetical scenarios?
Hit me with them.
French is full of alternatives to C.
You don't say?
They add subtle nuances to your conditional sentences.
Okay, give me some examples.
Two of my favorites are à condition que and pourvu que.
À condition que and pourvu que. Okay, tell me more about those.
Both introduce a condition
Okay.
that must be met for something else to happen.
So they're similar to C.
In that, they set up a condition. But there's a slight twist.
What's the twist?
A condition que implies a stronger, more binding condition.
Okay.
It's like saying, this is non-negotiable. If this condition isn't met, forget about it.
So it's like a parent setting boundaries.
Right. Like, you can go to the party, a condition que you finish your homework.
And what about pourvu?
Pourvu suggests more of a hope or a wish.
Oh, okay.
It's like, I really hope this condition is met because then this awesome thing can happen.
So it's like a hopeful romantic.
Yeah. Saying, I'll be the happiest person alive pourvu que you say yes to my proposal.
Okay, so to summarize,
Yeah.
C is for those general what if scenarios,
Right.
à condition que for those non-negotiable conditions,
Right.
and pourvu que for those hopeful wishes.
Exactly.
It's like we're building a conditional toolkit
Exactly.
to make our French more nuanced and expressive.
And to make that toolkit even more powerful,
Okay.
let's add in those mighty modal verbs.
Modal verbs. Like
Yeah.
what?
You know those verbs like devoir and pouvoir
Oh, yeah. Should, must, and can.
that express obligations and possibility?
A pack a punch.
They do. And when you combine C clauses with modal verbs,
Yeah.
you unlock a whole new level of expressive possibilities.
Such as.
You can express hypothetical abilities, obligations, and even regrets.
Okay. I need an example.
Imagine you're saying, if I could speak French fluently, I would travel all over France and have amazing conversations with everyone.
Ooh la la. So how would you say that in French?
Si je pouvais parler français couramment, je voyagerais partout en France et j'aurais des conversations passionnantes avec tout le monde.
Whoa, that's a long one. Okay, let's break it down.
So we start with si je pouvais parler français couramment.
Okay, so that's the if I could speak French fluently
Yeah.
part. And the modal verb pouvoir is what adds that hypothetical ability.
You got it.
And the rest is je voyagerai partout en France et j'aurai des conversations passionnantes avec tout le monde. So that's I would travel all over France and have amazing conversations with everyone.
Exactly. You've mastered it.
This is like a linguistic superpower. We're stepping into a world where we possess this amazing skill.
And imagining all the wonderful things we could do.
It's quite powerful,
It is. And you can do the same with devoir,
which means.
should or must. It expresses obligation.
Okay.
For example, si je devais choisir entre vivre à Paris ou à Rome.
Okay, so that means if I had to choose between living in Paris or Rome.
Exactly. It sets up a hypothetical scenario where a difficult choice must be made.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Paris or Rome.
Right. It makes you weigh the pros and cons of each hypothetical situation.
Si j'habitais à Paris, je pourrais manger des croissants tous les jours. Mais si j'habitais à Rome, je pourrais manger des pâtes tous les jours.
Uh-huh. Decisions.
Right. So many possibilities with C clauses.
Exactly.
It lets us explore those what-if scenarios,
And consider different possibilities.
even if they're just in our imagination.
Precisely.
This is making me really appreciate the power of C clauses.
I'm glad to hear it.
It's not just about grammar rules.
Right.
It's about understanding the nuances,
Yes.
the possibilities
The what ifs.
that make French such a rich and expressive language.
And the key is to practice.
Practice makes perfect.
The more you play with C clauses,
Yeah.
the more comfortable you'll become with those verb tenses,
Yeah.
those subtle shades of meaning,
I love it.
and those expressive possibilities.
Now, for those of you getting ready for the Pronunciator C Clause Challenge,
In the library module,
Right.
remember those questions about impossible conditions.
those can be tricky.
They can. Those scenarios that take us to a fantasy world.
Where pigs fly and cats sing opera.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Yeah.
And even though those conditions can't happen in reality,
Yeah.
we can still have fun expressing them in French.
So how would we say, if I had a magic wand, I would speak French perfectly?
Si j'avais une baguette magique, je parlerais français parfaitement.
So we still use the imperfect avait for that impossible condition.
And the conditional parlerai for that magical result,
Okay, so the rules stay consistent.
even when we're in that realm of fantasy.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive into C clauses, I want to touch on one more thing.
Right.
The difference between C and au cas où. They both introduce conditions, but,
There's a subtle nuance.
right, it can be tricky.
It can. So C is for those hypothetical what-if scenarios.
Right.
Well, au cas où means in case.
It's like a precaution.
Exactly. So, si il pleut, je prendrai un parapluie means if it rains, I'll take an umbrella.
It's stating a possibility.
But au cas où il pleut, je prendrai un parapluie.
That means in case it rains, I'll take an umbrella.
So you're prepared,
It implies preparation.
just in case.
So C is exploring hypotheticals, and au cas où is practical planning.
A great way to put it. It's the difference between daydreaming about winning the lottery.
And setting aside some emergency funds just in case.
Exactly.
Okay, so to sum up,
Yeah.
C is your passport to a world of possibilities,
And au cas où is your travel insurance.
just in case.
Haha. Well said. Mastering C clauses takes practice
A sense of adventure.
and a willingness to embrace those grammar bumps along the way.
But hey, the pronunciator certificate is within your reach.
Keep practicing and exploring those C clauses.
And remember,
And here to help.
so until next time,
Au revoir.
bonne chance.